Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into some really fascinating stuff today, all about aging research. We've got a bunch of documentaries to unpack, a Harvard Medical School seminar, and yeah, it's going to be a really interesting deep dive.
It's pretty amazing how much our understanding of aging has changed, even just in the last few years.
Yeah, we're not just talking about wrinkles and gray hair anymore, are we? It's way more complex than that.
Right. It really is. Like, we're starting to understand the processes happening deep down, like within our cells, that are driving this whole aging thing.
And I'm thinking about that analogy of the body like a car. It just wears out over time.
Right.
But it seems like it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, for sure. It's more like our bodies are these intricate ecosystems that are constantly changing and adapting over time.
And speaking of adapting, one of the things that really blew my mind in the documentary was the concept of those, what are they called? Blue zones.
Yeah, the blue zones.
These areas around the world where people are living way past 100, like routinely, and not just surviving, but thriving.
It's really remarkable. And there's one in particular that they focused on in the documentary, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica.
Right, I remember that. Like
Yeah.
an 80-year-old guy there has like an extra 8 years of life expectancy compared to most other places in the world.
Yeah, pretty incredible, huh? Like, what's in the water there?
That's what I want to know.
Right.
So, what are they finding? Is it all about genetics? Or is it something about their lifestyle, or maybe a combination of both?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Researchers are diving deep trying to figure out what's behind this longevity phenomenon.
Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. What are some of the things they're looking at when it comes to lifestyle? I mean, what are these centenarians doing differently from everyone else?
Well, one of the biggest things that jumps out is their diet. They tend to eat mostly plants, lots of fruits and veggies, whole grains, and they're not big on processed foods. The usual stuff.
Sounds pretty familiar, right? Healthy eating and all that.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that's particularly unique about their lifestyle?
Yeah, they're definitely big on staying active, but it's not necessarily about hitting the gym every day. It's more about incorporating movement into their daily lives, like gardening or walking or, just being on their feet more.
Right. It's about that whole active lifestyle thing.
And then there's the social aspect. They have strong community connections, close family ties, and, they seem to have a good sense of purpose.
That makes sense. Having a strong support system and feeling connected to something bigger than yourself, that's got to be important for overall well-being,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And it's not just about their social lives. They also seem to have a different mindset when it comes to stress. They're not immune to it, but they tend to manage it better. Maybe it's their strong community ties or their sense of purpose, but they don't seem to sweat the small stuff as much.
Okay, so we've got the healthy diet, the active lifestyle, the strong social connections, and a more relaxed approach to stress. Sounds like a pretty good recipe for a long and healthy life.
It certainly does, but there's also the whole genetics thing to consider, like how much of this longevity is simply hardwired into their DNA.
Right, right. We can't forget about that. Now, the documentary also mentioned something called telomeres, and I got to admit, I wasn't totally clear on what those are or how they fit into the aging picture.
Oh, yeah, telomeres. They're like these little protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes, kind of like the plastic tips on your shoelaces.
Okay, I get the analogy. So what do these little caps do?
Well, each time a cell divides, which they're doing all the time, right, its telomeres get a little bit shorter. And when they get too short, the cell can no longer divide properly, and it basically just dies.
Okay, so basically it's like a built-in timer for ourselves.
Yeah. In a way, yeah. The length of your telomeres can give you an idea of your biological age, which might be different from your chronological age. But here's the kicker, and this is where it gets really interesting. Research suggests that lifestyle factors can actually impact telomere length. So those healthy habits we talked about, they might not just be good for our overall health, they could be protecting our telomeres too.
Hold on, so you're saying that what I eat and how I manage stress could actually be influencing how quickly my cells age. That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing, isn't it? It means that we have more control over our aging process than we might think. Now, there's another piece of this puzzle that I think you'll find really fascinating, and it comes from the Harvard Medical School seminar we have. A geneticist there, Dr. David Sinclair, is doing some groundbreaking work on a molecule called NAD plus A.
NAD plus A. Okay, I'm all ears. What is that and why should we care?
So imagine your body has this instruction manual, right, for how to stay healthy and repair itself, and it's all encoded in its DNA. But, over time, that manual starts to get a bit scrambled, like a music CD with a bunch of scratches.
Okay, I'm following you.
So NAD plus is this molecule that helps maintain the integrity of that manual. It keeps those instructions clear so the body can function properly. But the problem is our NAD plus levels naturally decline as we age.
Ah, so it's like the repair crew for our DNA.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. But as we get older, that repair crew gets a bit smaller and less efficient. And that's where Dr. Sinclair's research comes in. He's experimenting with ways to boost NAD plus levels, and some of the results are pretty amazing.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. Tell me more. What kind of results are we talking about here?
Well, he shared this story about his own father, who's in his late 70s, I think, and he started taking this molecule called NMN, which is a precursor to NAD plus E, meaning it helps the body produce more of it. And the change in his energy levels and his overall activity was like really dramatic. He was hiking and kayaking and, just doing things he hadn't done in years.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like giving the body a jump start, helping it to repair itself more effectively.
Exactly. Now, it's just one anecdote, but it points to the potential of this research. And they're actually conducting clinical trials with NMN at Harvard right now to see if it can really deliver on this promise.
So it's not just theory. They're actually putting it to the test. This NMN thing, it sounds almost too good to be true. Are there any downsides? I mean, there's always a catch, right?
Of course, there are always caveats. Like with anything new, we need to proceed with caution. We need rigorous testing to determine the safety and efficacy of NMN in humans. It's not like a magic pill or anything.
Right, right. But it's definitely something to watch.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got these blue zones with their healthy lifestyles. We've got telomere research suggesting we can slow down cellular aging. And now we've got Dr. Sinclair working on ways to boost our body's natural repair mechanisms. It feels like there's so much exciting progress happening in this field. It's like we're on the verge of something really big here.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be excited about. But we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to explore. We haven't even touched on senescent cells, the zombie cells that build up as we age.
Zombie cells. Okay, now you've got my attention. That sounds a bit creepy.
Yeah, a little bit. But what's fascinating is that scientists are finding ways to actually get rid of these zombie cells, at least in animals, and it's having some pretty impressive effects on their lifespans.
Wait, so you're telling me we might be able to clear out these harmful cells and actually slow down or even reverse aging?
That's the hope. But as with all of this, we need more research, especially in humans, to really understand the long-term effects and the potential risks.
Okay, I get it. We need to be cautious but optimistic. This is all incredibly fascinating. So where do we go from here? What's next on our deep dive into the world of aging?
Well, next up, we're going to delve into the world of epigenetics, which is all about how our genes and environment interact to influence aging. And then we'll explore how AI, artificial intelligence, is being used to analyze massive amounts of data to unlock even more secrets of aging. It's going to get really interesting.
AI and aging. Okay, now we're talking. Can't wait.
Me neither. It's a rapidly evolving field, and the insights are truly groundbreaking.
So we've talked about blue zones, telomeres, NAD plus stuff, all this really cool stuff. Now, I'm kind of curious about this whole epigenetics thing. It sounds kind of complicated, but I want to understand it. Like, how do our genes in our environment work together to, make us age?
Okay, so think of it this way. Your DNA, right? That's like the blueprint for your body. It's got all the instructions for building you and keeping you going. But epigenetics, that's like the construction crew that's reading those blueprints and deciding how to build things, making adjustments along the way.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So it's not just the genes we inherit from our parents. It's also about how those genes are expressed, right? Like how they get turned on or off.
Exactly. And what's so wild is that all sorts of things can affect those epigenetic changes, like what you eat, how much stress you're under, even the people you hang out with. It's this crazy interplay between nature and nurture.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. Now, the documentary mentioned a scientist, Dr. Steve Horvath, who came up with this thing called the epigenetic clock. What's that all about?
Right. So Dr. Horvath, he's a really smart guy, and he figured out that there are these patterns in our DNA, this thing's called DNA methylation, that change as we age. It's like a clock ticking away at a molecular level.
So it's like a biological age speedometer. That tells you how fast or slow your body's aging, even if it's different from your actual age. That's insane. What can you actually do with that information?
Well, that's the exciting part. This epigenetic clock could help us figure out how well those anti-aging treatments are really working, Like, are they actually slowing down the clock? Instead of just guessing based on how you look or feel, you could actually track your biological age.
That'd be huge. It'd be like personalized aging, right? You could try different things and see what actually moves the needle.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your aging, not just letting it happen to you.
Speaking of taking control, I was really intrigued by the whole artificial intelligence thing. Like, how is AI being used in aging research?
AI is changing everything, isn't it? And aging research is no exception. Scientists are using AI to crunch huge amounts of data, like from our genes, our medical records, even our daily habits, to try to find patterns and treatments for those age-related diseases that, we're all trying to avoid.
It's like having a superpowered detective, right? Sifting through mountains of information to find those hidden clues about aging.
hmm
Are there any specific examples of how this is being used? Like, are there companies working on this right now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are companies like in silico medicine and BioAge that are using AI to develop new drugs and therapies that could target the root causes of aging. They're making some really impressive progress.
So AI could actually help us live longer and healthier lives. I mean, that's just incredible.
It is pretty remarkable, and we're just getting started. I think AI is going to play an even bigger role in aging research in the future.
All this research is super exciting, but I'm also wondering about, like, the bigger picture, What happens if we actually do figure out how to extend human lifespan by a lot? What does that mean for society, for the planet?
Those are huge questions, right? Like if people start living decades longer, how would our healthcare systems cope? What about retirement and Social Security? And yeah, the impact on the environment is something we have to think about.
It's a lot to consider. Like, we need to rethink everything, right? The way we work, the way we live, our whole social structure. It's mind-blowing.
It is. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we understand human existence. And it's not just about the practical stuff. There are some deep ethical and philosophical questions to wrestle with as well.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about the brain. I mean, that's one of the things that people worry about the most as they age, right? Like losing their memory, their cognitive function. What did the Harvard Medical School seminar have to say about that?
Oh, yeah, they talked about these fascinating people called super agers who are in their 60s and 70s, but their brains are like decades younger. Their memory and cognitive function, it's amazing.
So, like, they found the fountain of youth for their brains.
hmm
What's their secret?
Well, a scientist named Dr. Alexandra Torsoglu, she's been studying them using MRI scans, and what she's found is that their brains don't just function like younger adults, they actually look younger too. They have thicker cortexes, which is the outer layer of the brain that's responsible for thinking and memory.
So their brains are actually defying the normal aging process. Wow, that's incredible.
It is. And it's not just the size, their brain connectivity is better too. You know how we talked about different parts of the brain communicating with each other? Well, in superagers, those connections are stronger and more efficient. It's like their brains are wired for success.
I remember Dr. Tuerthoglu talking about the mid-cingulate cortex, which is a part of the brain that's involved in motivation. It's like they have an extra dose of mental stamina.
Exactly. They're not just coasting on their youthful brain structure. They're actively engaged and they're motivated to keep their minds sharp. And I think that's a really important takeaway from this research.
Right, so it's not just about having a young brain, it's about having a young mindset, right?
Right.
Like staying curious, staying engaged.
Exactly. And this whole idea of brain plasticity, it's really empowering. It means that we can actually train our brains to be more resilient even as we age.
So we're not just passive bystanders in this aging process. We can actually do things to shape how our brains age. I like that.
Me too. It gives us a sense of agency, right? Like we're not just victims of our genes or our circumstances. We can make choices that support our cognitive health.
So we've explored blue zones, we've talked about epigenetics and AI, and we've even peeked into the brains of superagers. It's been quite a journey. I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the future of aging research.
I am too. The progress that's being made is truly remarkable. But we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much to learn and discover.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
So what else is out there? What are some of the other areas of research that you think are going to make a big impact in the future? Well, we've covered so much in this deep dive.
Mhm.
Like, I'm seriously fascinated by all this stuff. Like, is there anything else out there that you're really excited about, like on the horizon of this whole aging research field?
Yeah, there is actually. You know those senescent cells, those zombie cells we talked
Oh,
about?
yeah, the creepy ones.
Yeah, the research on them is getting really interesting. It's showing huge promise. Like, as we age, they build up and cause all sorts of problems.
Right. Inflammation and, what was it, tissue damage.
Exactly, yeah. But scientists are figuring out ways to actually get rid of them, like eliminate them from the body.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, and they're having some pretty amazing results, especially in animal studies. Like, they're seeing some pretty significant lifespan extension.
I remember you mentioning that earlier, but I'm guessing there are some caveats here,
Yeah.
right? Like it's probably not as simple as just, zap the zombie cells and we all live to 150.
You got it. It's not quite that easy, unfortunately. Like, we always have to be cautious about applying findings from animal studies to humans. Our bodies are way more complex.
Right, of course. But it's still really exciting, right? Like
Yeah.
even the possibility that we might be able to target these cells and slow down or even reverse some aspects of aging, that's pretty
Oh,
huge.
yeah, definitely. It's a game changer for sure. But, it's still early days. We need way more research, especially in humans, to really understand the long-term effects and the potential risks.
Safety first, right?
Always, always. But it's kind of mind-blowing to think about, right? Like, what would a world with significantly extended lifespans even look like? What if we could all live to be 100 or even older and still be healthy and active? It's like, whoa, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, no kidding. It raises a lot of questions, doesn't it? Like, how would our societies adapt? What would happen to our healthcare systems, our retirement plans, our economies?
Right, like it's not just about living longer, it's about how we would actually structure our lives, our communities, everything. It's like we'd need to rethink everything, right? From the ground up. Yeah, totally. And it's not just the practical stuff either. There are some pretty deep ethical and philosophical questions to grapple with too, Like what does it mean to live a meaningful life when that life could potentially span a century or more?
Wow, yeah, that's heavy stuff.
Mm.
Like, what about overpopulation, resource scarcity?
Mhm.
Those are some serious concerns. And, there's the whole question of, like, what would it even mean to be human in a world where aging is no longer this inevitable force that shapes our lives?
Exactly. It's a whole new way of thinking about things, right? And it's not just about the individual either. Like, what about the impact on society as a whole? How would we structure our families, our communities, our governments if people were living significantly longer?
It's like we're on the verge of this incredible new era, but we're not quite sure what's on the other side.
I know, right? It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. But, I think that's what makes this whole field of aging research so fascinating. It's not just about pushing the boundaries of science, it's about exploring what it means to be human.
Well said. This deep dive has given me so much to think about, seriously. I mean, I'm walking away with a sense of wonder about the possibilities,
Hmm.
but also a deeper appreciation for, like, the complexity of aging. It's
Mhm.
not just about wrinkles and gray hair. It's about this whole intricate interplay of biology, lifestyle, and, even philosophy.
That's a great way to put it. It really is multifaceted. And, even though we're making so much progress scientifically, there's still so much we don't know. But that's what makes it so exciting, right? The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we're just beginning to understand the true potential of human lifespan and, what that could mean for our species.
Hmm.
It's really mind-blowing. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with, like any final thoughts or advice?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to embrace a proactive approach to aging. Like while scientists are working hard to develop new treatments and therapies, there's a lot we can do right now to take care of ourselves and like optimize our health span.
All right, like it's not just about waiting for the next big scientific breakthrough. It's about making choices every day
Yeah.
that can help us live longer, healthier lives.
Exactly. Eat a healthy diet, exercise regularly, challenge your brain, stay connected with loved ones, manage your stress, all the good stuff we've been talking about. Those things really do make a difference.
Totally. Well, this has been an amazing journey, seriously. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of aging research. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure. And, remember, the quest for a longer, healthier life, it's a journey we're all on together. So let's keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.